The best kinds of art give you these strange, immense feelings that nobody has words for. It's a discovery of how you haven't been looking at the world, but how it's different exactly, you're not sure. You find similar words like creepy or nostalgic or dreamlike, or this strange comfort in existing outside of existence. After diving into the trend of liminal spaces that took over the internet a few years ago, I've reached the conclusion that nobody knows what the fuck it actually is. There are really good videos on it, like people have done their research, people have put in the artistic hours to make it look cool. A lot of videos contradict each other. There's not really a consensus as to what these feelings are. They go off in entirely different directions, but it's also very exciting because it's a new aesthetic that is just starting to get defined a little bit and fleshed out, and there's a lot of room for interpretation. Super simple cliff notes, it's like the uncanny valley of locations, where like you see it and you have this deep unease and weird ethereal in-betweenness between reality and something else. The classic definition of liminal is existing on a threshold between two states, or like a boundary. There's a lot of good resources that explain it very well. I'll link some below. This is sort of like a response to all those videos because I really want to explore the next questions on the topic, how it ties in with other mediums and other art forms, and what makes it so hard to capture. The subreddit for liminal spaces has a list of rules for if you want to post a liminal photo, and good lord, it's like a thesis. Pages and pages and pages of don't do this and don't do that. This is what it is. This is what it isn't. No running, no diving in the shallow end of the dream pools. And as comprehensive and as detailed it is, they don't really follow the criteria at times, I'm sorry. A video by Alpha Oxtrot got millions of views. He was kind of exploring similar stuff with liminal spaces, and the photos were pretty good, but they got taken down for not being transitional enough.
But they don't ever define what a transitioning point is.
The top voted photos aren't really transitional.
Not transitional, not transitional, that's not transitional. He's not transitional.
Or it's kind of there, but it's vague enough that it could just mean anything. It just seems like a weird hair-splitting thing. There's such a temptation to label new things and to catch it and define it. It's this movement and these are the criteria. This is what is happening. Because we want to understand what's so fascinating about this liminality in these photos. But the rules and particulars of what makes a liminal space keep changing. But one thing's clear. Some photos work and some of them don't, which means there is a form, there is a criteria. And a form means an artist can tinker and can work with these elements to express what this liminality actually is. So, the best way to improve on an art form is by doing. You don't write a paper on making portraits to get better at making portraits. You go out and you take a pencil and you practice, and you practice and you practice. So we're gonna take some pictures. By doing liminality and by practicing it as what we're talking about in aesthetic, we can learn more about what it is by actually creating it. I'm also thrilled to say that for the first time, this video is sponsored by Milanote. Their software has been a great tool for putting this video together. More on them soon.
Urban exploration is going into a place that was built by humans that you're not supposed to go into. So my name is Caleb Metherell. I practice documentary photography. I've been doing it for 7 years now. Landscapes, architectural, local old houses, either gone into disrepair, abandoned buildings that most people probably wouldn't have seen, from power plants, for example, to just your regular abandoned warehouse. Beautiful architecture inside, only so many people have seen it because it's critical infrastructure. It's not for the public. When we go to places, we really try to research beforehand, capture the beauty of a location, or tell its history. You have to respect these places. There's a lot you can tell or learn taking photos while exploring a space abandoned and stuck in time.
Our search for liminality starts with these big, empty places. I'm not as adventurous as Caleb, but at a local college campus, we did find an underground series of unmarked, huge maintenance hallways that just screams backrooms. Look at this place.
Oh yeah. And there's just it's like a maze. Yeah. Did we come from here or over there?
We came from here.
Oh Jesus, I'm already lost.
With liminal spaces, it's something that I and many people have started to cringe at the term. You can see it in an infinitesimal number of things. It can be really lazily done. Like, yeah, it's creepy. But at the same time, I'll be at a place and joke with my friends like, yo, this is so liminal, man. Like, it is a thing. It is cool when done right, the way people have developed art around it, that aesthetic, often using VHS effect to either hide CGI or just get a style. And that kind of goes into like analog horror, old media formats to scare kids that aren't used to it. It works when it works.
It's almost like found footage-y too.
Yeah, a lot of found footage. A lot of analog horror is found footage. It's the new found footage, honestly.
With liminality, I think there's a lot of tie-ins you can make with a similar movement that happened exactly 1 century ago that also dealt with thoughts and memories underneath the conscious experience surfacing through art. Surrealism was just as confusing then as liminality is now, and like liminal spaces, there was a lot of debate and confusion over what this highly interpretive aesthetic actually was. Many surrealists were greatly impressed by the works of Sigmund Freud, who had shown that when our waking thoughts are numbed, the child and the savage in us are taken over. It was this idea that made the surrealists proclaim that art can never be produced by wide-awake reason. They might admit that wide-awake reason may give us science, but they would say that only unreason can give us art. These feelings of unreason are what drive all of surrealism. Surrealists want to express that the imagination is not to be tamed by the intellect, but that they're equal forces working in tandem to interpret the universe into art. The ideas picked up steam. The Bureau for Surrealist Research formed in 1924, whose aim was to, quote, gather all the information possible related to forms that might express the unconscious activity of the mind. A French writer and poet named André Breton formed the organization that would research surrealism. The excitement of a new ism. In the wake of rebellious art like Dadaism and Cubism, there was a rush to define what this shiny new surrealism actually was, and boy was it a slugfest. Breton and a rival of his, Yvonne Gohl, formed two opposing groups of artists and philosophers, each publishing a manifesto of surrealism within 2 weeks of each other, and they fought over the rights to the name.
No, like literally fought with fists.
There was a surrealist interpretive dance show organized by Yvonne Gohl where Breton's surrealist gang were like whistling and they were heckling the performance, and a fight broke out at the good lord, Comédie des Champs-Élysées.
We are looking at how to pronounce with the typical French pronunciation, Champs-Élysées.
Oh my god, I was so raw. Comédie des Champs-Élysées. They had to call la police. Shit was intense. Let me just read some of these back and forths in writing. These are absolutely incredible. So Breton writes in response to Gohl's paper, surrealism is something entirely different from the vague literature imagined by Yvonne Gohl. It is the return... I'm not going to do the accent. I'm so sorry. France. It is the return to pure inspiration. It is poetry finally freed from arbitrary control. Monsieur Damier involuntarily exploited the grotesque usefulness of Dadaism, and his activity was always foreign to surrealism. Damn! To which Gohl's manifesto alludes to Breton when he says, this counterfeit of surrealism, which a few ex-hobbyists invented to continue to amaze the bourgeoisie, will quickly be put out of circulation. Gohl's wingman, Paul Damier, wanted to ensure that the term surrealism surrealism is still in force and to keep it separate from petty cliquish quarrels, calling on Breton to monopolize a movement of literary and artistic renewal that dates from well before his time and that in scope goes far beyond his fidgety little person. When hearing this, Breton responded with, "One cannot get into such a discussion with such phonies and nitwits." And out of left field, we got Pierre Monhange, a collaborator from the periodical Philosophies, who confuses all of academia by writing this art form invented by the genial Max Jacob. Whoever the fuck that is, finds beauty only when rounded by lively lyrical painting. In other words, instinctive and natural. The entire bureau responds in a short letter. "We would like to notify you once and for all that if you give yourself the right to use the word surrealism spontaneously and without notifying us, more than 15 of us will be there to cruelly set you right." Monhange responds, and this is a real quote. "Unfortunate gentlemen, I will not address you with words of hate. You are coming forward for me to fight you. I will fight you, and I will vanquish you with goodness and love, and I will convert you to the Almighty." Watch out with the can, with the corner, with the chair. Watch out. Anyway, Breton's rhetoric eventually won out and became the standard for surrealist study. But do you see like how scattered this was in this movement? Lots of vague, subjective, interpretive feelings that are studied and observed from the natural world, what Ralph Waldo Emerson calls the primal warblings of nature. But the problem is we got these petty human brains that have to describe it with words in order to explain to other people what we're feeling, what we're seeing. If only we had some kind of a way to express things beyond.
All right, so one more thing before we actually start taking the photos. I wanted to like break down some of the key aesthetics of liminal spaces by taking some of the popular photos that are on the internet and sort of mood boarding them out, just to have them all in one place to look at them and see like really what are we trying to go for our photography. So I was using Milanote, and it was a great tool for this process. It's got a lot of the basic stuff you would want out of like organizing like projects and inspirations, especially for filmmakers. So I started with like key ideas, like what I really wanted the video to be about, and kept that next to our mock-up thumbnail. We mood boarded popular liminal images and pointed out some common characteristics. We gathered as much as we could from pictures and liminal sounding music choices, even the use of liminal spaces in cinema. That was a fun YouTube rabbit hole. They have a built-in web clipper extension, so you don't even have to like waste time downloading things, getting it onto the downloads folder, then moving it into the software. The mood boarding and collaging is great. It's like super drag and drop. You can link in like pictures and video and music and add like notes to them. It gave us a great visual canvas to like see all of the popular liminal art. Milanote was also great for pre-production. We stayed organized with to-do lists, and we like tabled out photo locations for scouting and all that. And it was just a great text editor to take the notes on surrealism. I was able to mind map and link elements together to like draw connections between ideas. I even wrote the script in Milanote, like it's all in one place and it's easy to access. I enjoy the simplicity as well. Like there's a lot of software that just like clutters things up with like a huge list of tools. These are just like a couple that work seamlessly together. And if you want to get more complex, there's a lot of templates. There's over 100 of them that like use the simple tools as building blocks. I personally enjoyed the podcast script template and the beat sheet. It was just how my brain works. Like it even looks like an editing timeline. So we have a section just called What Makes a Liminal Photo. Lots of provocative titles and playlists and things like You Don't Belong Here. You know, lots of buzzwords, claustrophobic, definitely uncanny, definitely abandoned, artificial. With the back rooms, it's very maze-like. There's a weird like gamification to it, which is kind of interesting. Nostalgia core is familiar. It's soft distortions. It's a little playful, childlike, definitely contemplative. Another video was talking about the collapsing of memories, because a part of nostalgia is realizing how much you've lost through time and through memory. Ambiguous lighting time of day. Strange, uncanny placements of objects. Buildings function unclear, so you can guess that it originally had a purpose. That purpose is removed. Lots of soft distortions, very cold, brutalist architecture, indifferent to the people inside of it. So we got the vibes in our head a little bit. We have some common criteria Now we just have to go out and take some of these pictures. So if you're a filmmaker or artist looking for like the right tools, or if you're just like a productivity mood boarding nerd like I am, you can try out Milanote for free as long as you want with a link in the description. Thank you so much to Milanote for sponsoring this video and for making such a helpful tool. Let's go take some pictures.
I'm starting to realize how important the lighting is, because it's 6:30 right now, the sun's gonna set in like 2 hours. So it's low, there's like shadows cast and everything. I'm trying to figure out, and I'm looking at reference pictures. It's very uncanny lighting where you don't really know where the source is coming from. So I've been going up and down trying to figure out what lighting makes it look extra strange. There's just a big train just sitting here. Like a freight train, just parked. I am sure there's a reason why it's parked here. I don't know, I'll Google it. But I was drawn to this because of all of the power lines that are here. It's in like huge swaths of like grass. And I thought that was just kind of interesting. Like throughout all of like, you know, just kind of the rural part of the US and around highways and stuff, there's just miles and miles and miles of power lines. It feels almost natural, like trees just standing here with the rest of nature. I have one more spot to get to before the end of the day, and I'm so glad I did. It is by far the creepiest. Look how fucking empty this is. This is absolutely crazy.
I used to be pretty creeped out by this place, honestly, when I first started working here. It still has kind of the aesthetics and everything of like a place from the 80s and such, but you can tell it's all kind of degraded and become decrepit because of the neglect that it's seen over the years. I look at it as like a movie tomb. This is where films go to die. There's so much space for people or things to be in the theater that, you know, psychologically it kind of plays with you. It's left kind of just like hollow. And I mean, you could pretty much say that about this whole mall, I feel. That whole kind of culture has fractured in such a way, it's just not really what it once was. So, you know, you just can't get caught up in your imagination. I had to learn that the hard way.
Very spooky atmosphere, and like we're just getting so many crazy shots. Just like being in this empty theater, the silence and like the emptiness is so loud. I'm afraid to like talk. No wonder why people think like there's ghosts everywhere. It's so quiet.
When it comes to liminal spaces, I'm kind of the thought that there's a chance that like buildings and inanimate objects have some kind of memory that gets soaked into the walls and the floors and all that, you know, maybe not, you know, like the kind of memory that humans or animals have, but when you walk into a place like that, you can't help but feel something, you know? Places that are clearly built for large numbers of people that are completely empty, you know, there's something that you can put your finger on where you're like, this isn't like most places.
Liminality is, by its very nature, ambiguous and hard to define. After all this analyzing, all these YouTube rabbit holes, all these photos, and all this editing, I think I finally understand the threshold that's crossed in liminality. These photos all have human places that humans used to occupy and might occupy in the future, but now we're between moments and we sit here not belonging in either the past or the future. You're not home, you're not at your destination, you're not anywhere, you're between states. And I think it's that unbelonging that makes a lot of these liminal spaces so alluring and escapist, occupying a space that isn't real. Art lets us escape into the mystique of dreams. And as humans, we want to figure it out and find the answers to the questions that liminal spaces pose to us. When there is a creepy place, we want to add a creepy monster that answers the question. Yet the moment we go, oh, it's this thing, this is the threat, the liminal aspect to it vanishes, because the art, the real beauty of liminal spaces is that confusion. What is this place? What is it built for? What am I remembering in this picture? Because the truly unsatisfying, paradoxical nature of these places is that there is no answer to what they are. They just are. The purpose is yours to question for yourself. And just like that, through art, through an impossible place, we learn something about the real world. That life doesn't flourish in the answers, but in the questions.
We can kick back now. The show has reached the end. Turn out the light.